Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I hope you had a great weekend. I am Yori Folane. Okay, let's begin, and let's take on security again this morning. Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited has put out a most comprehensive security report covering, from the last quarter of 2024 right up until, January, and here we are now. And we're fortunate in that the CEO of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu, is our guest this morning. A fine morning to you, Dr. Adamu.
Thank you, Uncle Yori. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much for making the time for us. Okay, now, I guess the first place to start off from would be, we know that Nigeria is grappling with security issues on quite a number of fronts. And although it might well be that in the north, northwest, northeast is where people habitually say the issues are, maybe I should first of all say that, does this security report that your firm put out, does it cover the entire country, or is it specializing in the north generally?
Yes, so Uncle Yori, it covers the entire 774 local governments of Nigeria, the 36 states, FCT, all the local governments in the 36 states and the 6 council areas in Abuja. More importantly, we have a dashboard which is interactive. And if you're interested, for instance, in knowing either a spatial or a specific time point analysis of a local government, you can click on that. It would generate that and give it to you. If you're also interested, for instance, in the 36 states, any of the 36 states, you can do that, and it will give you either a spatial or a time-based. So that the report that you saw is just an extraction from that dashboard. Of course, it would probably be extremely voluminous.
It is. That is why I emphasize that it's a most comprehensive report. It seems that you took it from, you're comparing like with months in 2023 with 2024. What was the modus of putting that report together?
So intelligence is a process, and one of my greatest misgivings is the way we abuse the word intelligence in Nigeria. Okay. It is a process that over time has been well documented with standards for regulating or achieving certain aspects of it. It includes the process of collecting, collating, analyzing, and then disseminating the information. So this is what we have in-house. We have all the 6 stages of the intelligence process, where we collect, we collate, we analyze, we produce, and then we disseminate. Of course, the dissemination is dependent on who the recipient of this. And I must say at this stage that we have, pro bono, made available those reports you see to, especially the coordinating elements within the government public security space. And the idea is, we feel this is our own contribution to national development. Of course, I'm sure by now you have realized that it costs a lot of money to develop the capabilities for the 6 processes that I mentioned. But we thought that by making the report, and especially the outcome, the trends that you are seeing available, yes, will help them give an indication of what they can do in terms of improving or changing the deployments that they do. When we come to discuss the details of the report, you find out that the threat factors in different parts of Nigeria are different. Mm-hmm. And so you cannot use a single stroke of brush to address them. Once you understand the threat elements, you understand the manifestation of insecurity based on this threat element, you understand the risk, then your deployment processes would have to also be different. The mitigation measures that you put in place would also have to be different. So essentially, the report that you are seeing is a tool for security management. That is if the recipient actually understands that. And thirdly, on Priori, with all sense of responsibility, we haven't been getting the kind of responses. They barely even acknowledge the fact that we do send these reports to them with our recommendations. I mean, in the minimum, an acknowledgement would not only give us the encouragement to continue doing it, but nothing. We rarely get that.
Well, that's very, very surprising because, well, again, it's a specialized area that you're speaking of when you're speaking about security and intelligence. Can it then be that it's not the kind of thing most Nigerians are aware is very important to them and has been provided pro bono, as you just said? I believe it's up on the internet for whoever cares. Are there any special demands for you to be able to access? Because I think I saw that it was in the region of 300 pages. So I'm just surprised when you just said that you've made this report, you've made it available, and the very, very beginning of just acknowledgement. Maybe it's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet.
I hope so. I hope this conversation, since it's in the public, would trigger the kind of response that, I mean, in the minimum, like I said, an acknowledgement. We're not asking to be paid. If we're asking to be paid, we will not make it available. But let me be very clear. We are a private company. We're business oriented, and we do have subscribers into our services. Okay. Now, those subscribers pay for some aspects of our services. But my point is that because we realize that this report would be useful, and I hope you agree with me, to our national security, Indeed. To our national development, we do make the report available pro bono to especially, and I emphasize this, the coordinators in our national security architecture. There are different aspects of our national security space, the national security architecture, but then there are about 6 elements within the coordinating level. That is the Office of the National Security Advisor, about 3 ministries, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Defense, and to an extent, Ministry of Justice. And then, of course, the presidency. So my point is we do make available this to them pro bono. And the idea is to, every day, consistently, I hear the president speaking about all of government and all of society approach to security. So this is an example where a private player, we Indeed. Are making our contribution, and the media too. I mean, by hosting me, it's a contribution to our national security. So we need to move beyond the narrative of all of government and all of society approach so that it becomes in reality practical, where you sit and say all of government and all of society, yet a private player is reaching out to you. And in the minimum, you should have the decency to acknowledge and maybe even invite that private sector player to say, okay, we've read your report, we've noted X, Y, Z. How do you think this can be implemented? That's how you achieve the all of government and all of society approach. Indeed. When you dissect the report, one of the things that worries me, you will find out that a majority of our security occurrences are domiciled in the northwest and the northeast of
In fact, Dr. Adamu, you're beginning to enter into the area that I was going to say. Could you please give us what would you take out? Because as I said, it's a big document. It's a big document. So what would be the key security trends? I don't know if the latest is the Lakarua issue that has recently been declared a terrorist organization, but what would be the key security trends that the report throws up?
So first off is to give an overview of what we saw in terms of the total numbers, and then what that represents. In terms of total numbers, for the whole of 2024, we recorded 11,692 fatalities across Nigeria. Now, in 2023, This 11,692 is 2024. In 2023, the figure was 9,734. So this represents a 20% increase when you compare year to year, 2023 to 2024. But Uncle Yori, it's not even in fatalities that the worry is. It is in the number of abducted persons. Okay. In 2023, the total number of abducted persons we recorded was 4,049 in the whole of 2023. But in 2024, what we recorded was 9,679, which, if you do the calculation, we give you a 139% increase. And there is a clause there that we noted when putting out our report. These are the recorded and verified incidents of abduction. There is another layer of several incidents that are either not reported or we are unable to verify, especially the cases of one chance in urban areas. And now we're going into the trends that we're seeing. So in the area of one chance, what we saw significantly is an increase in urban abduction, where people, the perpetrators would use their commercial vehicles to abduct individuals, and in some instances it's called express abduction. They abduct them for a few hours and then they let them go. And the victims or their families would rarely report such incidents. Uncle Yuri, in November of 2024, I sat down with about 17 members of House of Representatives. I was doing, it was a conference and I delivered a paper at that conference. And in our interaction, about 9 of those 17 members of the House of Rep admitted that their family members, not their kids, not their wives, but maybe workers, aides and all of that, were victims of one chance, either in Abuja or in their locations. Again, these are just a small and in fact privileged group. So point we made in our report is that beyond this 139% increase in 2024, the figure could even be higher. But because we were unable to verify these unreported incidents, but that we know are happening based on interaction, we do have a database and we do interact, so we know they are happening, but we're unable to verify them. So the figure could be significantly higher than that. So that is one trend. In terms of the distribution of these occurrences, what we saw, and let me quickly break it down according to fatalities and abduction. Okay. Borno State represented the highest rate of fatalities in the country in 2024, with 2,215 persons being killed in Borno State in 2024, followed by Katsina with 1,298. And then the next one was Zamfara, and then Kaduna, followed by Niger State, Benue, and then Sokoto. Incidentally, all of these states are in the north. So significantly, the other trend that we notice is that about 80% of the occurrences of fatalities were in the northern part of the country, and significantly, like I said earlier on, in the northwest and the northeast of the country. Now, if we move to abduction, the state that suffered the highest rate of abduction was Zamfara State, with about 2,657 persons abducted in 2024, followed by Katsina with about 1,513, and then Kaduna with about 1,174, followed by Sokoto, and then Borno came thereafter, with Niger State trailing Borno State. Again, all northern states.
These are people abducted for ransom purposes.
Exactly, that were verified. But remember that I said the figure could significantly be higher than that because of the express and undocumented abductions that take place. Now,
sorry, before you continue, it might be mysterious to whoever is listening who is not in Nigeria or is not a Nigerian when you refer to urban abductions, the one chance variety. So I'll quickly explain that one chance, this has been taken from what the conductors who are, canvassing for customers, and so they yell out, that only one chance left, hurry up, just one chance left. This is a marketing device on their part, and that's how that phenomenon became known as one chance, where they trick people into their vehicles and then the rest is the subject of this conversation. Would you agree with that, or is it a different thing that you call one chance?
It's exactly that. Even though there are variations.
Yes, of course.
It is exactly that. Like I mentioned, the use of commercial vehicles.
Yes, yes.
For ransom purposes.
Yes.
And because the transport system in Nigeria is largely unregulated, sadly, it allows for that. And it's an ongoing phenomenon. I mean, efforts are being made significantly in the FCT Abuja. We must acknowledge the fact that especially the Commissioner of Police, the new one, has done quite well in terms of some of the efforts, reducing tinted glasses as an example, ensuring that vehicles, only pick passengers from parks and stuff like that, and then also reducing, for instance, incidents of persons who are either profiled. They know that, for instance, they could be involved in that, and then they arrest them even before they abduct individuals. So yeah, efforts like that are being made, but significantly it hasn't reduced the occurrences, and I think that's the trend that we saw in 2024.
That's why I think I couldn't agree with you more when you say that maybe things had been ideal from your perspective. This kind of a scientific study has been done. It might well be that people who were recipients and who are relevant would have wanted to talk a bit more about it, because it's like the work that is cut out for all of the security community. Somebody is doing this kind of work. I wonder why there hasn't been what the ordinary person would have thought would be the natural thing. Come, let's discuss this and let's see how we can benefit from this information. What can we do differently using the information that we now have? So I'm just stymied that such is not the case.
Well, Uncle Yuri, it's out there. I've echoed it, you've echoed it, and I'm sure they are listening. So hopefully, let's look forward. Let's hope that. By the way, we've been doing this for this. We're in 2025 now. This is our, I think, 5th year that we've been doing this. So it's not new. We've been consistent. If you go to our website, you would see that we've been consistent in the production of.
And as you're talking about it, since you said it's pro bono, it's out there, whoever is interested could probably go to Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited site, and there would be a link there for them to at least note it. They can't read it immediately because it's in excess of 300 pages, if I remember. I just knew that this is not something you can scan.
No, so first off, let's be very clear. Aspects of it are available online. But,
okay.
Again, we're in business. I have operational costs.
Yes.
So for those who need, I mean, for the media and researchers, I must say with all sense of responsibility that we make it available free of charge. For corporate organizations and others who need, specialized aspects of the report, we have a subscription-based. They will demand that they pay for it. But for, again, media, researchers, government departments, we make it available pro bono to them.
Well, yeah, thank you for that clarifying information. So I would just stay here and at this end of the conversation and say that I don't think things are getting better. See this situation, see the statistic you quoted for Borno being the highest with 2,215, abductions. And I don't know if you begin to break it down, how many of those were successful. And one has to be careful about using the word successful. What do you mean by successful? If the abductee, the person abducted, if that person is alive, that's one thing. But we often hear horror stories of people being abducted, ransoms demanded, and that still doesn't guarantee that they'll escape with their lives. That's the extent to which we have deteriorated.
Sadly, yes. So, I mean, we could look at the latest month, which is January.
Okay.
Our last production, and discuss the trend.
From last month.
For January 2025. So for January 25, the total number of fatalities that we recorded was 991, which unfortunately is an increase from the figure in December 2024. The total number of abducted persons in January was 1,101, which is also an increase from the figure in December 2024. When we look at the breakdown state by state, what we saw is almost a replication of what we saw in the whole of 2024. So Zamfara State topped the chart for number of abducted persons, with 511 persons abducted in the month of January, followed by Kaduna with 149. And then next was Borno, Katsina, Sokoto followed thereafter, with Niger State trailing them. FCT Abuja, too, had 10 persons abducted in the month of January 2025. Now, if we go to fatalities in the month of January 2025, Borno State had the highest fatalities, unfortunately, with 179. So I'm sure you've seen several cases of resurgence of attacks by this group. Now we're going to talk about the methodology, what we saw in trends in terms of methodology, both in 2024 and then in January. The next state was Niger State with 131 fatalities, followed by Katsina with 113, and then Zamfara with 104. And then, of course, in the southeast, Imo State entered this unfortunate, chart, coming fifth with 50 persons, followed by Jigawa with 45 persons, and then Sokoto. The others would be Kaduna and Yobe. This is for January 2025. When we did the regional distribution, again, it showed a trend that was significantly disturbing. So for abduction, the Northwest we occupied 78% of this 1,101 persons that were abducted in the country in January. So one region with 78%, which means if as a country we focus our attention and energy to addressing the case in that one region, we would have significantly reduced by up to 78% the occurrences in the country. So this is why I'm saying this is a tool. You look at it, it gives you an indication where do you pour in your assets for specific types of occurrences. The next region.
One moment, sir. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but George has called in from Ikeja. Let's take his question or observation about. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling. Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, good morning to the security expert.
Dr. Adamu.
Yes. Uncle Yori, I listened to the figures that Dr. Adamu read out. It doesn't appear to tally with the public perception. Last week, I traveled by road from Lagos across 7 states up to Jos and came back. The perception about insecurity, abductions and all that it doesn't seem to tally with the figures that he is rolling out. Although his figures, he said, centered around mainly 80% of it is in the northeast and northwest. But be that as it may, I want to ask him a question. Security companies like yours, sir, what is the relationship you have with the government or security agencies that can help in tackling this challenge? It looks like security companies have more intellectual information in terms of figures and realities on ground more than the military. Maybe it's because they do not often speak to us. But since you have this advantage, what's the relationship? Do you share it with security agencies or national security advisor, or how is it actioned upon? The information you gather, how is it actioned upon?
Okay.
So that in totality, it can enhance the tackling of the challenge.
And just before you go, Mr. George, just before you go, when you said the information doesn't seem to tally with what is otherwise observed, could you just give us a little clarity on that? I mean, is it like it's worse than the figures suggest, or not as bad as the figures suggest?
Those states that I went through, the insecurity, the perception of insecurity in those places, they seem to agree that it has reduced.
Okay.
But the figures that the doctor rolled out says they have increased.
Okay.
Whereas maybe the places I passed through Lagos, Ogun, Osun, Kogi, Nasarawa, Abuja, Jos, and the borderline of Kaduna.
All right then. Okay.
I passed through all those places, and the impression I got is that there's a reduction in the security challenges.
Okay. All right then. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Dr. Adamu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. George. And I think if we kind of do a breakdown of, especially the location that you visited, it will corroborate the point that we're making. Remember that we said in one instance, I did mention that over 78% thereabout of abduction occurred in just one region, which is the northwest of the country. The locations you listed, locations that largely does not include the northwest of the country, apart from Kaduna that you said you visited. And the other point that I think is also very important is if we look at the breakdown in terms of a granular analysis of the locations, a lot of these incidents occur in rural areas. Road networks are largely policed or sometimes even militarized. You will see checkpoints, you would see other forms of security protection along road networks. So if you are traveling daytime, significantly the risk of you being affected by any of the threat elements is reduced to almost the lowest possible form. However, if you travel at night, then the risk increases significantly. So I don't know whether it was daytime. I'm presuming that it was daytime that you traveled, which means the risk was extremely low. But I can assure you that even yesterday, we saw a release from the Ogun State Police Command where there was a blockage of a road and an attempt at abduction using roadblock to place. So significantly, those occurrences that are still happening, but with security management measures like the type I've just mentioned, traveling daytime in vehicles that blend, or sometimes if you have the money with security protection, yes, you can travel within locations. It's different, however, if you're in the Northwest, where over the week in Maru, Red has blocked the road because of the number of raids by groups in locations.
Dr. Adamu, let me bring on Reverend Dominic, who has also just called in. Good morning to you, Reverend.
Good morning, Dr. Adamu.
Good morning,
Reverend. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. He just answered you.
Just to continue where my friend George stopped. To me, I think the data Dr. Adamu is throwing is even a shadow of the reality of Nigeria. Let me say this. Let me give you this a typical example. Last 2 weeks, we discovered a member of House Assembly in Anambra that was kidnapped and killed and thrown around a second Niger bridge. Do you know what happened? When security agents went to pick this man's body, they found another 2 bodies. Those 2 bodies are unknown person, non-recorded, was not in the media. So one thing is, if Dr. Adamu, by media, all you statistic is showing us where the kidnaps that's on the media, on the height. Thousands of kidnaps happens in interland, in the villages, where people go and take their brothers and sisters if they have the means to pay ransom, and they don't report to police. What Dr. Adamu is reporting is a reported case. So if you take the example I show you now by the member of State House Assembly that was thrown into Niger Bridge, and when security agents were combing that area, they found additional 2 bodies, which means in one report in media, there's 2 that was not reported. So I think what Dr. Adamu is doing is understatement. A lot is happening in our nation that we do not know. Another example, Yori, I came from Imo State. Ask Dr. Adamu, there's a local government in Imo State where people are defected now. Also in Imo State, the whole local government were taken by this bandit. Nobody reports that. As I'm talking to you now, the indigenous of this local government doesn't go home. for over a year or two, a whole local government. I don't need to do something last night, but till last night, the local government was still under siege. There was no Boko Haram there. There was no bandits there. We don't know who took this local government and put it in the pocket, and government has no authority there. As I'm talking to you now, nobody has access. The indigenous of this Australian local government in Imo State doesn't go there for over 2 years. So what Dr. Adamu is reporting from that statement, honestly, with due respect to him, he's doing well. But most of his strategy is based on reported case. Why there's one reported case, there's two non-reported cases.
All right.
So what I'm saying, I don't believe that my friend George is giving a right, statistic, because he just moved through the road. When you drive through the road of Nigeria, it's quiet and peaceful. But things happen inside the villages. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria. All
right, then. Thank you very much, Reverend. And Dr. Adamu, so that you won't be interrupted, I'll quickly take a break now. And when we come back, you'll be able to, comment as freely as you wanted to. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. And our guest is still Dr. Kabir Adamu, CEO of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. And he's discussing with us, it's a private security firm that has been mentioned. But he's discussing with us his sort of annual report, and as he was just telling us, it's been going back for the past 5 years and was able to compare them. Okay, so Dr. Adamu, what would you say? Reverend Dominic just said that much as he appreciates this statistical information, he seems to be concerned that we might be getting an under-reporting, as going by the example he cited, where they went for one, they were going to bring back the body of one person who had been abducted, and then found 2 others that they didn't know about before. Is this a widespread thing, or was it a one-off?
So I did indicate earlier on in my remarks that we are aware that there could be a huge number of occurrences that because they've not met our standards, that we've not included in our database. So, I mean, the Reverend Dominic's statement actually corroborates that. But I also want us to be careful. We are an intelligence firm. We do not base our findings on conjecture or on surveys or other forms of research methodologies. Ours is intelligence. We collect, we corroborate, we analyze, and then we present. Okay. Where the reports don't meet those standards, then we can't include them. But I must say that the fact that we are internationally recognized, we have been invited by even the highest multilateral agencies in the world, including the UN and the others. And at no point in time has any of our findings been questioned. The 1 or 2 instances where state governments attempted to question the veracity of our findings, by the time we presented to them in a logical manner, the process, they admitted and they kept quiet. So I must say that we should be careful not to lean towards conjecture, but to continue on this path of objective analysis and hope that the whole of government and the whole of society approach security will be met. Where, in the case Reverend Dominic cited, I mean, there are people in that location, they are not ghosts. And when such occurrences occur, they should report it. Our method of collection includes both open and closed sources. Okay. We do depend on both human beings and not just media reports.
Could I interject here? Because you just said that, your methodology includes verification, among other things, before actually putting out stuff. How do you verify? With whom?
So the process of verification is well documented. So as an example, you have sources that are credible. What do I mean sources that are credible? The military every week reels out figures of its successes, quote and unquote.
Okay.
And that's an official. The police do the same thing. Some media, I must say that, and this is in no way disrespecting the media. There are some media houses that are credible, that when they release, you are sure of it. But then even at that, you have to corroborate 1, 2, 3, and then to an extent you reach a point where in some instances you have people on ground in those locations, you call them up. So the media has reported it, that there was an incident, let's say in a council area in Abuja or in Enugu State, as it were. You have people on ground. You follow up.
That's what verification involves.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just apologize to Professor Edmund in Enugu. He's called in and he's been waiting to join the program. Good morning, Professor Edmund.
Oh, good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling. You can go ahead now. You're on now.
Yes, Mr. Yori, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, it's been a long while.
Indeed. Good to have you back.
Yes, thank you. I've been listening to your security analyst,
Dr. Adamu.
Let's be factual about what is going on in Nigeria security-wise. We've not been honest with ourselves in this country security-wise. Yes, we've not been honest with ourselves in this country security-wise.
Okay, how do you mean?
We've been listening, military analysts, police analysts, DSS analysts, a host of analysts talking about the same security issues in Nigeria. But oftentimes, most of these security experts concentrate their analysis on Northwest and Northeast, relegating what has been happening in other parts of the country. Honestly speaking, Yori, I feel ashamed.
But I did bring that point up. Professor, I don't know if you joined us when I put that particular issue to Dr. Adamu, that was it pan-Nigeria or was this just the North? And he said it indeed, his study was pan-Nigeria.
No, I don't think so. No. Yori, it's not his analysis. His analysis I've been following. I've been following. It's not a pan-Nigerian analysis he's giving. He's concentrating on a particular region of Nigeria. You remember what? Let's look at what the last caller said about what happened at the River Niger. What happened at the River Niger? So that's a pointer to what I'm saying. But anyway, I feel ashamed that we are still talking about insecurity in this country and security, different security architecture, different security apparatus. We are not yet serious. We talk, too much talk and no action. That is the problem we have in this country. So at times I saw video clips about these terrorists in the northern part of Nigeria moving in convoy. I ask myself, where are our Air Force people? Where are the Air Force? Where are the Air Force? Where are the surveillance? So they cannot see all these movements, and we are here analyzing issues concerning ragtag soldiers, non-state actors. My brother, we are not serious. If you are serious to tackle insecurity in this country, honestly speaking, we can do that. Nigeria has the capacity. We can't continue to live in fear in this country. It's shameful. We're living in fear. Despite the billions of naira pumped into security matters in this country, and there's nothing to show for it. I rest my case.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much. Professor Edmund calling from Enugu. Dr. Adamu?
Yeah, Professor Edmund, I can understand the distrust, but I wish there was a way I could reach him. I'll be happy to share the report. So he sees that it's pan-Nigerian. It covers the 6 geopolitical zones. And like I said, our database includes the 774 local governments of Nigeria. We do have a section of the report for 2024 and for January 2025 that narrows down on the Southeast, the 5 states in the Southeast, that discusses the threat and the trends of security occurrences in the location. Perhaps the reason why we are focused on the North is because, for obvious reasons, if 78% of abductions are happening in one region, it would make a lot of sense to be discussing that region. But that does not mean we do not take into consideration when in 2012, 2013, up to 2024, early 2024, the non-state armed groups in the Southeast were extremely volatile, and we're seeing they shut down on Mondays and they were attacking different government institutions and representations. The focus was on the Southeast, but the dimension has changed now to the North. So for obvious reasons, we're focusing on the North, but that does not mean we're neglecting any region in the country. And like I said, if I had his contact details, I'll be happy to share. He can go to our website, send an email, and we'll be happy to share the report with him.
Okay. Umar has called in. He's in K2. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle. Good morning, Dr. Adamu.
Thank you for calling.
Good morning.
Yeah, Dr. Adamu, thank you for your great analysis so far. And I've listened to all you've said so far. Then I will start from where the last caller stopped, which is the issue of whether we are serious about insecurity or not in this country. Because the fact is, in time past, some politicians or some people were named, or we heard the government officials, the likes of Lai Mohammed then, as the Minister of Information then, said there are so many Nigerians, big names, but those names were never mentioned until they left government. This Boko Haram, the Lakurawa, and the rest of those bandits, and also some people that are coming from the northeast and southeast in particular. Some of these guys, they move in drones, they move in convoys. In some cases, they drove hours from to the city, and nobody. Like the last caller said, where are the Air Force? What are they doing? Where are the Tucano jets that was bought? What are their use if we cannot even trace where these people are coming from?
All right, then. Well, thank you very much, Umar. Thank you very much, Umar. Appreciate your call. Okay. Dr. Adamu, he's the second person that has spoken about, I think the person who spoke just before him was saying that, where is this particular branch of the military? What was the intelligence? Where was the Air Force was there? How does one answer these kind of inquiries professionally?
Professionally, Uncle Yuri, and I'll be a little bit controversial here, and I hope you permit me to be. Part of the mistake we're making, and because I'm the expert, I hope I'll be given the honor for a consideration of what I'm going to say. Part of the mistake we're doing is to think the military will solve our challenge. No, the military is one element of our security and defense architecture. Most people don't like to hear that word architecture, but there is indeed an architecture. And the military is just one component of that architecture. Like they say, the whole of a system consists of different elements. And if that system is not working together, then the results or the output would never be satisfactory. And that's where we are in the country. One of the consequences of the military legacy is this exact point. It can be argued that the military has the best armaments in terms of the weapons at their disposal. No other component of the security architecture can compete with them. But let me just give us a sense of what I'm saying, Uncle Yuri. There are 29 in the minimum, and I say this again, in the minimum, there are 29 ministries, departments, and agencies that are contributing to national security. Now, the military, even if you are extremely liberal, is just 4 out of that 29. So imagine a fraction where you have 4 over 29 and you want the 4 to do the work of the 29. It's not possible. So we need to refocus, and that is why for the prof that called from Enugu and for Umar from K2, I want us to be a little bit more widespread in our understanding of national security.
But Doctor, because the military is the expert when it comes to brute force, even though they're working under regulations and rules, but brute force, nobody can beat the army. That's why they're thinking that, I think somebody was annoyed enough to call those people ragtag kind of fighters. We've been told that actually they're a bit more than ragtag kind of fighters. But in terms of brute force, who can compare with the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army? This is why people get frustrated and say those kind of things, even as you have explained that there are many more aspects to the architecture. Can you appreciate it from the civilian, non-professional point of view? Say, okay,
yeah.
I'm being told that I've left Mazi Kora for too long. So please hold where, I have to interrupt to bring Mazi in. And I hope you'll be able to also address that notion of mine. Good morning, Mazi. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. You today is my birthday and my twin sister. That's number one. I keep it aside.
Congratulations.
When we talk about this issue of kinetic and non-kinetic to fight insecurity, you see, prompt response is major things which we are lacking. As you rightly say, we have Air Force, Navy, and Army. Now you ask yourself, this time around, drone, like I've been saying it, is very, very cheap. Let us establish our own industry here in Nigeria and start producing it to help us for prompt response and intelligence support to help us. But the situation whereby when we go, we bring in and start training people now, time is going. And we ask ourselves, as I'm reading one of some of the papers yesterday, last week, what is that? That in the enclave of the criminals, the terrorists, that they saw propeller of an aircraft. Sayuri, where are they when these people have access to an aircraft, where they make a propeller of an aircraft?
Okay.
Sayuri, we have to investigate this. We come to say, these local people, these bush people, we call these hunters, we are developing them. The area we business, we cannot continue on this before it starts to take a break. It's not easy. We have to come there. If they do, for me, if I have my way to be there, all the ministries or all those areas, they what they call simultaneous fighting. What I mean, results of 4 square fighting, the same time, the same hour, both aircraft and that. So in order to do that, we cannot cope with it. I think thank God for what American lawmakers said, that the aid they send to Africa, to the whole world, that they use it to sponsor terrorism. So
okay, Mazi, thank you very much. I'm afraid I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but thank you very much. Because, well, Dr. Adamu, I just hope you were taking notes because every time you come on and talk about security, so many people want to, also contribute. So please, Dr. Adamu, do your best to sort of encompass those contributions that we've had.
So I would just use one word to summarize everything that we're hearing: accountability. We want more accountability in our security sector. If you look at budget for 2025, security enjoys the highest provision of any sector, including health, including infrastructure, education. Security has surpassed them with about almost 5 trillion naira. And so we want more accountability. We want to know that that money is actually resulting in the things that we want. We want a situation where the incidents will be lowered, where perhaps in a year we'll just talk about 100 fatalities and we'll be happy. And how do we achieve that accountability, Uncle Yuri? The president has started the process. He's institutionalized Executive Order 13, which is performance measurement, and he's given that responsibility to one of his special advisors, Hajia Hadiza Bala Usman. It's a process, but we need to see more accountability within the security sector.
And by the way, I'm sorry, the president has also given what's been called matching orders to the army to bring down insecurity appreciably by the end of the year.
I'm hoping that that directive is to the entire security sector and not the army alone. I was making the point earlier on that we should not just focus on the army, and I wanted to use border management as an example. If we continue to kill like they're doing, and I must commend the military for that, they are killing the commanders of the non-state armed groups, the bandits, the terrorists. But if we can allow them to continue to regenerate, by regeneration I mean those returning from the Sahel and from further away, Syria, Afghanistan, back into Nigeria, or to be their funding base to continue to generate money through kidnapping, through collecting dues and levies, residents, or we allow them to continue to procure motorcycles and get the fuel that they use in those motorcycles, then the work of the military would never end. So that's my point. Border management is not the responsibility of the military, and I hope the listeners agree with me. It's the responsibility of customs and immigration. And so we need to look at security from that paradigm, where we dissect national security, responsibilities go to the different departments. Ministry of Interior, enough of the talk. The Ministry of the Interior has a huge responsibility. It's sad that there is a separation between Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Police Affairs, but the same energy that we focus on the defense sector, we need to also focus on the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Police Affairs. It is then that Uncle Yori will be talking about effective national security. This mindset of the military, we need to come out of that and also focus on the other agencies that are contributing to national security. And earlier on, I did...
Well, one second, I beg your pardon. Again, I'm so sorry that I'm doing this, but I think you understand our program. Mr. Izuagbe, Izuagbe in Abuja.
Yeah, thank you, Yori. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Adamu.
Good morning, Mr.
My name is Izuagbe Ibrahim, calling from Abuja.
Okay.
I think the one big problem we still have in this country is the porosity of our borders. We all remember how much was invested into the National Identity Scheme. And of course, when that scheme was on, there were palpable fears that even some foreigners from our neighboring countries got those national identity cards.
That's right.
Honestly, I tell you, until we are able to curb the incessant migration of people into this country from our neighboring countries, we will not be able to curb insecurity in this country. It's a major problem.
Okay, Mr. Izuagbe, we're going to have to leave it there so that I'm so sorry. That's the gist. So let me bring that to Dr. Adamu. In fact, I salute you, Dr. Adamu. You've just been, we've been distracted. No, maybe distracted is not the right word. So many people have contributed, wanting to contribute to an important subject like that. Perhaps you could take that on. This matter that has just been brought up, so many neighboring countries, the citizens, took Nigerian identification monikers.
Yeah, Uncle Yori, if we go into the granular details, time will not allow us.
That's
but
right.
I think the bottom line is to approach security from that dimension, where all the MDAs that have responsibility for security must work together as one to achieve the objectives. I mean, if you look at the renewed hope agenda of the president, the security imperatives in that document, they are amazing. I love them. But why is it that almost 2 years into the administration, we're yet to implement them? And so this is my point. We have to approach security from that paradigm where there are measurable indices in terms of KPIs, key performance indicators, to show Nigerians in a very clear term that we're achieving the objective. And it shouldn't be the responsibility of the military. Those coordinating elements that I mentioned earlier on, Office of the National Security Advisor, the Ministries of Defense, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Interior, and to an extent, the Attorney General of the Federation, as well as the Presidency. These are the coordinating elements. If they need to bring together all the MDAs in a manner that they are contributing equally and with all sense of purpose and responsibility to the imperatives of that renewed hope agenda.
We're going to have to leave it here. Dr. Adamu.
Just one,
okay.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
This is to Mr. President. I'm praying that he can appoint a special advisor on security in his office that would develop a dashboard for him on those 8-point imperatives in the renewed hope agenda, so that every period, 1 week, monthly, he's able to see and say, okay, we've made progress in this 8-point agenda. And then, Uncle Yori, the MDAs will be accountable, not just to the president, but to the Nigerian people.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu, CEO, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, for your insights and also explaining the report to us. And as you were saying, if anybody is interested, they could go there and there would be extracts that they could see and find out in addition to, the kind of thing you've done, not just today, but also I think in the past 3 weeks, people have been calling you up, trying to get an insight into this report. I want to thank you once again, Dr. Adamu, for coming on our program this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, then. So that's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.